Who's really to blame for the Steeler loss? I have the answer. And Jesse Jackson, get in your bus and go home. Hey, folks, just a couple of things we're going to talk about today on the debut of Honseberger Live. I have no idea what's going on here. I usually do a radio show in the afternoon. Here I am on television. This is a face only a mother could love. Now I'm asking you to love it too. Welcome to the first show. Welcome to Honseberger Live. And, well, let's start. Let me tell you what we have going on for today. Here's the Honseberger agenda for today. Number one, I think the Steelers have finally found out who to blame. You'll be surprised. They have ID'd their problem. We will share it with you today. Jesse Jackson. He's come up. He's not given up in Decatur, Illinois. We'll talk about that. The folks at Fifth and Forbes, the obstructionists, have hired a lawyer. We'll talk about that. We have Rich Little on with us today. What a great segment that's going to be. And the person who used to sit in this very chair, Lynn Cullen, will join us. And that's not all. The lawyers, the detectives from Law and Order will be with us. That's what we have all set up for today's show. So I hope you stay with us because it's a big show. And big shoes to fill in here. We have big shoes to fill. Now, let me start off with this Steeler thing. I'll tell you, I got some email about the Steeler thing, and this is what makes everything look so bad. Email to Hansman. I just got it last night. Dear Fred, as a former Pittsburgh resident who saw the light and moved to the north coast of Cleveland, let me ask you and your audience one question. How does it feel to have your mighty Pittsburgh Steelers get totally punked by the so-called last place Cleveland Browns? For years now, we Clevelanders have to put up with the crap from you Pitts pukers. Well, now it is we on the North Coast and not you who are doing the happy dance. The Cleveland Browns will always be the Pitts Puke Steelers' worst nightmare, and don't you forget it. This is only the beginning. Feel free to read my name on the air, as I am now a Clevelander and proud of it. I will read his name, Matthew Marcinko, formerly of Pittsburgh, God forgive me, and now residing in God's country, Cleveland, Ohio. This is what I'm getting. This is the email that I'm getting right now, folks, because of yesterday's loss. And add that, I just saw Julie Bologna out in the hall. Add that to the Penn State loss on Saturday. It was a bad weekend. This is what we're going to have to put up with now until next year, because we don't play them again. Now, whose fault is it? Whose fault is it? Brian, can we go to this Hans thing now? Can we do this videotape? Let's go to the videotape and find out whose fault is it. The players tell us whose fault it is. Here we go. Of their fans.
I just wish some people in the crowd can come down there on that field and see what it's like. You know, you make one mistake and they want to boo. If you come down there and experience what we go through.
Yeah, I'll come down there and experience what you go through. Give me the money. I'll be glad. You boo me as much as you want to boo me, I'll come down to here.
It's not that easy. They need to quit judging people so quick. Because they make one mistake, they boo, and you make a good play, they back on their side. How you make that don't make him feel good, you know. They're so quick to jump on and off the bandwagon. I think that's wrong.
If you don't like us, boo us the whole game. Don't sometime you know, when Cordell do something good or the offense do something good, they screaming, then time one little play go bad, they booing him. You know, I mean, at some point that starts to work on your nerves.
This is Sam Nover. You gotta be kidding me. Sometimes it gets on our nerves. Sometimes it's not right. Hey, you deserve to be booed. And believe me, the Pittsburgh Steelers deserved to be booed. Why don't you come on down in the field and take our place? 333-PCNC, 333-PCNC. If you've got something, does that outrage you? It outraged me. Is that right? Yeah, I am outraged that the players are blaming the fans for booing them. Wasn't it Coach Cowher who blamed the lack of tailgate space? We have no tailgaters. That's the problem. The tailgaters intimidate the other team. So here we go. The combination of no tailgate space and the combination of boos from the stands, and why don't you come down in the field and take our place? And believe me, Mr. Edwards, we'll go down in the field. We'll take your place. Give me your paycheck for 1 week. That's all. 1 week's paycheck. 333 PCNC. You Pitts puke Steeler fans. How do you feel about that? I'll tell you about that. That's unbelievable. It's it. Jim, what do you have to say here?
I just wanted to say that it was a couple weeks ago the pro football players were saying that we don't care what the fans think. We play for each other. It doesn't matter to us if they boo us or not. Now, all of a sudden, it matters.
It's our fault, Jim.
It's our fault.
It's our fault.
Right.
We don't tailgate because we have no place to tailgate because the parking lot situation, and now we boo, and because we boo, it's our fault.
I think they need to tell the truth from the top down. They don't want to spend the money to get that player, Edger and James, Manning, whoever it might be.
All right, Fred, you're on KDKA. Hello, Fred.
Fred.
You're on the air, baby.
Yes, I'm sorry. How
Talk to me.
How you doing?
I'm all right.
Okay. I just want to make a comment on the comment of the Steelers being a little upset about being booed at the stadium. My point of view of that is that since the beginning of the home series, they've been booed. Since last season, they've been booed. I don't totally agree with you at all saying, that they're little crybabies or, they're feeling sad, they're worried about it. That was just totally,
Fred.
I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
Fred, what do you do for a living?
I'm a security guard.
You're a security guard. What do you make okay money, or you'd like to make a little more than you're making?
Everybody likes to make a little more.
Everybody wants to make a little more. How much do these guys make?
They're making millions.
Millions of dollars.
Right.
And they're saying, come down on the field and take my place because and see how we feel. Now, let me ask you something, Fred.
Yes.
If you've got a bad day, being a security guard, right?
Yeah.
You got a bad day. It's a bad day. Nobody's going to come down and take your place, right?
Right.
Does your boss say you've had a bad day, you better shape up?
That's exactly right.
Does your customers, did the customers sometimes you say, hey, what's going on here? You had a security guard in the South Side. It was shot over the weekend, right?
That's right.
That's a bad day.
That's a horrible day.
And he's not getting millions of dollars.
No, he's not.
These guys don't have any shot to I mean, they're not going to get shot. I mean, they're down there playing football, and they're not performing.
Your point of view is the Steelers not performing. Period. They don't have a good team.
What do you think?
I think they got a mediocre team.
They got beat by the Cleveland Browns.
I'm gonna tell you. They got beat by the Cleveland Browns, who are a team who's been getting better each week in and week out. They've been getting better and better. They just haven't caught the breaks.
God bless you, Fred. God bless you.
Yeah, thanks.
Ray, you're on KDKA.
How you doing, Fred?
All right, what's up?
Yeah, what's everybody going to say hard about? It's just a game.
Well, it's just a game.
Yeah, that's all.
So you're not
It doesn't matter how much money you make.
Yeah, you're right.
Have you ever played football?
Have I played football?
Yeah.
Junior high school, I played football.
Have you ever played professional football?
No, I don't recall.
Well.
So it's okay?
That young fellow put it right out. You get off and see what it's all about.
All right, wait a minute. So it's okay for the Steelers, for Troy Edwards and Lee Flowers to blame the fans for their loss. Is that what you're telling me, Ray?
No,
Is that what you're telling me?
No, well, I mean...
Is that what you're telling me? You're on the spot here.
No, I'm not. I'm not on the spot.
Margaret, you're on PCNC with Honseberger Live. What's going on?
Hello.
Hello, Margaret.
Hi, glad to see you. You're one of my favorite people.
God bless you, Margaret.
And I just want to say that Cowher better get off of his chewing gum and getting on the stick.
What do you think of these guys who say, hey, the guys are right, they shouldn't be booed, we're not supporting them enough?
They should have been booed. If my husband would have been out on that field playing and did what they did,
you better believe it.
He would have been in the door.
These guys ought to be happy they're not playing in Philadelphia, and I'll tell you, because in Philadelphia, they would have been booed off the field. They deserved to be booed yesterday. The Steelers are crybabies, and we're going to take a break. We're coming back with Rich Little. Is that right there, Brian? Rich Little's coming back. We're going to come back with Rich Little. Stick with me. Honseberger Live on PCNC. Good to be with you this morning. Welcome back to Honseberger Live, and it's my pleasure to have as my guest here on our very first program, Mr. Rich Little. Don't say he's you do impressions, not impersonations, correct?
I don't really care. It doesn't matter. I've been called a lot of things. Impressionist, impersonator, mimic, satirist, comedian.
But you say there's a difference between an impersonator and an impressionist.
Well, an impressionist, these are your impression of what somebody's like, so it can be exaggerated or anything you want it to be. I think of an impersonation as more of an exact copy. So basically, then I'm an impersonator, because I really do more exact copy of somebody than an exaggeration. I mean, Richard Nixon's exaggerated, and some of them are, but not all of them.
You're just off a very successful weekend with the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra.
Had a great time.
Where you've done some things differently. Fantastic reviews in the paper. And I'm going to get to that in just a moment. But we all remember you for, yes, Richard Nixon. I thought it was a tremendous tribute in the HBO special Late Shift that you played the part of Johnny Carson.
That's right. Yeah, and Johnny was quite happy with it, apparently. I ran into him about a month ago in Malibu, and he looks pretty good.
Yeah, he's all right?
Except
Give me a little Carson. Give me a little Carson.
He's lost his voice, though.
No.
He looks good. He's very thin, not much hair, but he looked great after a quadruple bypass. You know, and we haven't seen him. But his voice, he was sounding like this. He said, "Rich, gee, it's good to see you. You know, you're looking great." I said, "John," I said, "the voice." He said, "I know somehow through these operations, my voice is gone." I said, "Don't tell me I have to learn how to do you all over again." And, you know, but he was surprised that I was still doing him in my act.
Well, but everybody still, I mean, I think of you, as soon as you walked in the studio today, Johnny Carson came to mind. I mean,
he said to me, I can't believe you're still doing me in the act. Do people remember me? I said, "John, of course they remember you. They always will." He was quite surprised with that.
He's on pay-per-view on the satellite, for crying out loud. You can buy his past shows on DirecTV. So, he's a legend that will always be with us. Is he, I don't know if there's any one person you're remembered by. Richard Nixon, of course, is very, that's a dramatic impersonation that you do. But, I mean, is there any one person that people remember you by? As soon as you walked in, I thought Johnny Carson.
Well, I would say Carson, Nixon, possibly Reagan, and John Wayne. I get to do a lot. You know, there's always somebody at the airport doing their John Wayne for me and walking like John Wayne. You know, and it's quite a funny sight to see some guy saying, "Well, how you doing, Pilgrim? Let's get out of here, yo," and then walk across the airport lounge with that John Wayne walk. I think he got arrested. I don't know.
You're saying that you're sticking with these are old characters. These are folks that well, I grew up with and I knew, but no new people in the repertoire, because it's difficult, huh?
Yeah, it is difficult. How do you imitate Harrison Ford or Tom Hanks or Tom Cruise or Val Kilmer or some of these people that are in movies today? You know, it's pretty tough. And the older actors were more identifiable. They were larger than life and easier to do. You know, now with the symphonies that I just did, doing stars from movies and doing a lot of the great movie musical, music from movies, not musicals, dramatic movies. I picked mostly films from the 40s into the 50s because that's when they wrote the great music for movies, and that's when they had the great stars. So I'm not really doing anybody current, which is kind of a shame.
Yeah, but some of the classic movies, you did some singing too, huh?
Yeah, I did a lot of singing.
Is that not something new? I've not seen you sing before.
I've been doing that for a long time. I do Neil Diamond and Frank Sinatra and Tony Bennett and Willie Nelson, Tom Jones, Johnny Cash, a lot of singing, yeah.
You see some people, and you mentioned Frank Sinatra, and Joe Piscopo came to mind. He did a pretty good Sinatra on Saturday Night Live, but that's about all he did that I can remember, and I know they always try to impersonate some of the other folks. How difficult is it to do a lot instead of just being a specialist at one or two?
You're right. A lot of people are identified with one voice.
Yeah.
You know, Joe Piscopo with Sinatra. Dana Carvey doing I Want to Be Prudent.
Not gonna do it?
Doing this little impression of George Bush, you know. Sounds like Mr. Rogers. But it is true. Frank Gorshin was identified with Kirk Douglas. You know, I guess I'm identified with Nixon, if anybody, you know, and that's still a big impression for me. I mean...
all right, well, we've got to see something.
Even after all these years. And I'm still I'm picking up things from Nixon. You know, in the latter part of his life, I think his dentures must have slipped a little bit because he started to get a little bit of a lisp.
Really?
Richard Nixon, gosh, he was sounding a lot like this. I, of course, I did not do anything wrong. and I promise never to do it again. You know, it was kind of a sound near the end of his life.
How much study, how much practice does it take, and what do you do? When do you decide this is someone I can do, and I'm going to do it?
Well, you know, sometimes you can do it when you're not really that happy with it, and the audience doesn't know, you know, how good it can get. So they'll settle for it if the material's good, or if you look a little like them. Maybe when the voice is a little thin. I do a little Jay Leno, but I'm not too comfortable with it, so I don't do it. But there's no particular time. You just do it and hope it gets a reaction.
So you say, but in your mind, how do you decide this is someone I'd like to do?
I don't know. You just
walk around the house and start
walk around the house,
see if it's working, and say, I could do this.
Yeah. I remember when I was learning to do David Niven, I was dubbing for the Pink Panther, one of the last Pink Panther movies, and I had to do his voice because he had lost his voice near the end of his life. He had that awful Lou Gehrig's disease. And I was walking around literally all day long talking as David Niven. And I was going out, and I was going to the supermarket, and I was going to restaurants, and I was ordering as David Niven. And I, getting myself prepared to do this because I had to dub all these lines, you know. Same with Gene Kelly. I dubbed for him in a Christmas special, and I got so involved in it that I just went around all day long sounding like this, doing my Gene Kelly voice. And then after I did the dubbing,
people in your neighborhood must be saying, there's
had
Rich.
To get Gene out of my system, and then I was back talking to myself again.
There's Rich working on another character again. Anybody you couldn't master? Anybody you wanted to but you couldn't?
Oh yeah. I always wanted to do Ed McMahon, and
you are correct, sir.
Yeah, that's it. Do the laugh.
I interviewed Ed. He's a great guy.
He is a great guy, and I never really got it to the point where I was happy with it. A lot of people I'd like to be able to imitate, but how do you do them? How do you do Robert Redford, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to be back. I want to ask you about your new act, the thing that you're trying out now, maybe the Broadway thing you're working on. Rich Little, my guest on the first edition of Honseberger Live. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back in a minute. Welcome back to Honseberger Live. Rich Little, my guest, after a very successful weekend series with the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra. Did you enjoy your stay in Pittsburgh?
Oh, I did, and the symphony was magnificent. It's one of the best in the country, and it was such a thrill to know that behind me were all these people. I don't know how many there were, at least 80.
Yeah, they're great people. I've done some things with the symphony, some Christmas shows. We even saw them at Royal Albert Hall in London. They're a top-notch group of musicians, and I love working with them.
Well, it was a thrill for me because I was doing something different, doing all the great scores from all the great movies, and then doing the speeches from the movies. And I can open that up and make it bigger. I only did that for about 20 minutes, but I could make a 2-hour show out of it by doing... Oh, you could do John Wayne from Red River. You could do Jimmy Stewart from Vertigo, you know, and go on and on and on and on, because there's so many great scenes and great scores from films.
Well, this is something new for you.
Yeah.
And is Pittsburgh one of the first places
yes,
to try
it's the first place I've done that. The singing medley is out of my act. I've done that for years, but the movie thing was brand new, and it was very exciting to do it.
Oh, it's great. Well, we're glad you debuted it here, and it was received very well. And I'm also hearing that you just said that you can do 2 hours of this.
Yeah.
You're working on a Broadway play?
I'm working on a Broadway play. I have been working on it for years and years and years, and I don't know that it's ever going to come about or not, but I'm always hopeful it will. We're getting closer anyway.
Yeah, and we talked about the impersonations you do, John Wayne, Johnny Carson. That's a certain era.
Yeah.
Are you still able to attract enough young people to that, or guys my age coming out to see the act? I mean,
well, the majority of people that go to clubs are I wouldn't say elderly people, but middle-aged and up.
Thank you.
And I don't play to that many kids, you see, and in that way I'm lucky. I can do a lot of the old stars and a lot of the singers from a few years ago. I imagine if you were 12 or 13 sitting in the audience, you'd wonder about a lot of people I do.
You were, when I was growing up, and you were on every television show that I could think of every week.
Every week, right?
You were on Laugh-In. You did Laugh-In.
Did Laugh-In, and that was terrific. And all those shows helped my career tremendously. Carson Show, Laugh-In, Ed Sullivan, Dean Martin, all those shows.
Yeah.
You're right, I was doing one almost every week.
So this would translate now into what you're doing. I mean, I would think that it'd be tremendously popular, and I'm glad you had a good response over the weekend here.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm because the music is so great from pictures, I can do a lot of obscure impressions. I was doing William Holden, Fred McMurray, James Mason, Stars Born, and Gable, of course, from Gone with the Wind, Clark Gable. I was doing, then I was doing Humphrey Bogart and Claude Rains from Casablanca. So.
When did you decide that this is something that you were talented at and you could make a living at it?
When I started imitating my teachers.
Is that right?
And they would ask me a question. They'd ask me a question, I would stand up and answer in their voice. Usually the wrong answer.
Yes.
That's what infuriated me.
You were the wise guy,
Yeah,
right?
I was the wise guy in class. See, the person you're imitating is the last person to know you're doing them. So the teachers used to look baffled and wondered why everyone was laughing.
But your friends knew.
Oh, everybody
So they're
else knew.
laughing.
Everybody else knew. I used to do that all the time. I had all my teachers down.
I had a physics teacher, and he was so easy to do. He was some old guy, and he couldn't relate to anybody. We used to call him Old Sneaker Breath for obvious reasons, and he'd come out. He'd come out with a little candle in his hand in the shape of a foot. He goes, "Oh, class, this is a foot candle." And so we'd all pick up on that, and I usually found myself down at the principal's office more times than not in physics class. I never got away with it.
That's funny. I would get up before the teacher arrived in the morning and do the teacher. And we'd have a lookout at the door, and then when we'd see the teacher coming, I would take my seat, we'd all behave. The teacher would come in and do exactly what I was just doing and getting big laughs. And he couldn't understand why he was so funny, because I was doing him just before he arrived. I was a devil.
Well, all right. Now, as you move into your professional career, anybody upset with your impersonation of them? Didn't like it? Didn't like what you were doing with it?
Not really.
Really?
Even Richard Nixon liked it.
Is that right?
He
Ever at the White House?
I met Nixon once, and he said, you know, I didn't know who you were doing. It was very funny. It was very funny. Pat says it was me. Like he didn't know, but I don't know. Paul Lynn on Hollywood Squares used to get a little. I think he put me on. Every time I would do Paul Lynn on Hollywood Squares, they'd cut to a reaction shot of Paul.
Yeah.
And every time he got, who's that? Who's he? Is that supposed to be me? Oh my God, that's disgusting. But that got a good reaction when you do that. He was always so sour-faced, you know. But he knew I was doing them.
So it's okay.
Yeah.
Charles Nelson Riley was all right with it too.
Yeah. Tony Randall used to say, "Rich, you've missed me completely. No one can imitate me because I have perfect pitch." And perfect pitch.
Yeah, right.
So most of the people who didn't like it, they were just teasing me. I never really ran into anybody who really objected in a big way.
Were you ever hesitant, apprehensive, meeting someone that you've impersonated for the first time?
Oh, yeah. Well, Nixon, I was terrified. That's why I was so relieved to say that it was very funny, even though he didn't know I was doing them. Reagan was the best. He had the best. He had the best sense of humor of anybody I've ever impersonated in my life. He was wonderful with me. He used to say, "Rich, you know, you do me better than I do." He said, "Did you ever think of becoming president? And then, even though you're a Canadian, we can make exceptions. And then when you get in, you could talk in my voice."
Can you do Clinton?
Well, Bill Clinton, of course, is a good voice to do. You know, he's got that
little raspy
that frog in his throat. I think it's Kermit the Frog is stuck in there. I don't know, but he's a good subject. He wrote a lot of great material for us.
Yes, I bet he did.
I did not do anything wrong. I did have a sexual relationship with Monica Lewinsky, but I didn't inhale.
This is a cigar. Who's doing it today? Who's today a contemporary impressionist impersonator? Who's doing it real well today?
In Vegas, it's Danny Gans, who is a superstar in Las Vegas, but yet across the country, people say, Danny Gans, who's Danny Gans? He didn't have the luxury I had of being seen on television. See, I was very fortunate in the 70s, as you said earlier, to do all these television shows. That's what made me. Danny Gans didn't. So he's becoming a celebrity just by working Vegas and word of mouth. But he's very, very big in Vegas.
Fred Travelina's still around these days?
Still around, yeah. And who else? Frank Gorshin is still around, but Frank does a lot of dinner theater and things like that. Well, not too many, but there's a lot of good impersonators living in Vegas, like Kathy Walker, a female that I just used on a CD I did. I did a CD, a tribute to Frank Sinatra, which is out now in the record stores. It's non-singers singing Sinatra tunes. And I used Kathy Walker to do Joan Rivers singing with Jack Nicholson, Lady is a Tramp, and Jack Benny and George Burns sing with Gracie Allen. She did Gracie Allen. But I also have Bill Clinton singing Call Me Irresponsible.
Jack Benny? Give me these little
and Jack Benny sings, of course, Every Time It Rains, gee, pennies from heaven.
Well, Rich Little, we are glad that you spent some time in Pittsburgh. It was a pleasure meeting you today. And thank you for sharing some of it all with us, so we appreciate it.
Well, thank you. All of me is delighted to be here. It's a great little city if they ever get it finished.
Thank you very much. We're working on finishing it. All right. We'll be back with more Honseberger Live in a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back to Honseberger Live, and I'll tell you what, the person who used to sit in this chair is now sitting in the chair next to me, and the last time I was here, I was sitting in the chair next to me, and she was sitting in this chair, and as I walked out of the studio and they called me upstairs for a meeting, she said to me, "Don't take my job." Lynn Cullen, ladies and gentlemen.
You
Come on.
snake in the
no,
grass.
don't start this. Don't start this.
He's despicable, ladies and gentlemen. You see that?
No.
Last time I saw you, I said my last words to you, begging. I remember hanging on your leg.
I said, don't take
my job as he disappeared out of the studio. And look.
When we were sitting here waiting to come on, you're saying you couldn't be happier. You were so relaxed. You're a very happy woman. You're not running here or there and everywhere. And now I get to do that.
That's right. You can have it. What time did you get up this morning, Fred?
I got up at 5:45.
And you were panicking, right? You had to watch all the newscasts. You had to read all those newspapers. You had to get it all done. You had to doll yourself up. You had to look nicer than you normally do. Nice suit, nice jacket. Very nice, very nice.
Mail order.
But you know me? I rolled out of bed about 8:30.
She's wearing jeans.
I'm wearing jeans. Well, I used to wear jeans on this show. And you can do that. You can do that. You only have to dress from the waist up.
Not the other place. They wear shorts. The sports guys wear shorts, especially in the. Are you feeling all right?
I'm feeling.
I know that was a big deal here.
Well, I got very ill this summer. That is true. Very ill.
Well, I know.
Scary. I didn't know what that was, but here I am.
She's looking okay to me.
It wasn't my time, apparently.
Oh, please.
I'm back. Well, you wonder. When the people in the emergency room start, they see you coming in again and they say, "Oh, hi," and you start knowing names. It was weird. But so anyway, I just, I really felt like a near-death experience to me. So I started thinking about priorities and what are you doing, and you're doing too much, and this is nuts, and why be doing this and that, and and I'm a mom too. I don't have a wife at home.
Well, I'll tell you, she does all the hard work.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
so
it's like
I
working
have to do
at home.
all
It
that
is.
too, so
Everybody
I
says,
can't do it.
You're a stay-at-home mom. You have all that time on your hands. No, this morning it was orthodontist, and then you have this club, and then I'd pick them up after this practice, and there are two of them, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
So
it's a full-time job, too.
She works very hard.
So I figured it was too many jobs.
All right. Well, I know.
But Fred,
your viewers are sorry to see you go.
We don't want to overexpose ourselves.
So you can never get too much exposure.
That's not true. I come from northern Wisconsin. Let me tell you, they die of exposure. You die of exposure.
Well, that's weather exposure.
Well, that's too much exposure.
333 PCNC. If you want to say goodbye to Lynn or say hello and say how you doing, and say.
You don't have to say goodbye. Well, I guess that's true. I never did say goodbye. That's true.
333 PCNC. And the problem is every time we were on this show, we always just loved each other so much.
We didn't argue.
We never argued, and I'm wondering now.
I'll argue with you about what you were doing at the top of the show.
About the Steelers, about the booing.
I do not believe. I do not believe in booing the home team. I do not believe in it.
Oh, if they stink, boo them.
They're your team.
They stink, boo them.
You You root for them.
I was
you
booing in Happy Valley on Saturday. Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, you must really be a miserable
What an awful weekend this was.
Aren't you happy Now, come on, aren't you happy for Pitt?
Who?
Pitt.
You know, that
was a great game.
The biggest ovation that went up at Pitt Stadium on Saturday when they announced the Penn State score.
I know.
Pitt's, I'll tell you what, next year's game between Pitt and Penn State is going to be a huge game because Penn State's going to lose a lot of people. Pitt is not going to want the last game of the series to go out. They don't want to go out losers. It's going to be at Three River Stadium, but that'll be almost like a home game for Penn State. But still, it'll be a huge game. Huge. And there's no guarantee Penn State's going to win. When did this turn into a sports show?
Well, I don't know, because you brought up that booing. I really don't believe in booing.
Booing is fine.
I grew up, in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and went to Packer games from the time I was 6 years old. Those Packers in the 50s, they never won a game. The stands were full, and we never booed.
I grew up in Philadelphia watching the lousy Philadelphia Eagles. We and Santa Claus would come on the field. We throw snowballs at Santa Claus. One guy hired a plane, the plane with a little message trailing. It says, Biff Barf, King of the Boo Birds, Section 51, Seat 3. They were proud of their Boo Birds status. What'd you say, 3, 2, 1? Jerry, you're on KDK. Jerry, you're on PCNC.
You did it again. You did it again.
If Brian Gumble can say this is today, I'm having a real problem. Jerry, you're on PCNC, Honseberger Live with Lynn Cullen.
You know what? They're going to dock you the day's pay. You haven't.
I know.
Yeah. I wouldn't give you any pay.
Honseberger, I love the show.
Thanks, Jerry.
It's great. It's
First
great.
day, how can you love it so far?
Love to see you on PCNC.
Thank you.
No problem. I want to talk to Lynn Cullen. Miss Cullen, I loved your show. It was really good. I liked it a lot.
Thank you.
I'm a high school student. But I got to tell you, the Steelers were playing like my high school team.
There you go.
It was horrible.
Well, they stink. They were stinking up the field. I just don't believe in booing.
But, they're making, what, $4 million a year?
What does that have to do with anything?
I'm never going to see that money in my life, probably.
Let me ask you. If you were paying him you have a player. He's earning $4 million a game. Let's give it to him.
No, he's not making.
Give him $5 million a game. Do you think he'll play $1 million better, or take $3 million away? Yeah. They're playing as. The pay has nothing to do with how they're playing.
We're having a pity party for Troy Edwards. Come on down to the field and take my place. Okay, give me the check. I'll be glad to go down there, run around. I only got 8 toes. I'll still run around for whatever it is. No problem.
Exactly. I weigh 180 pounds. I can mess
So in other words, you guys only like your team
when they win. Absolutely.
That's not true.
Not only like them. No.
You only
loyal. We're loyal.
I'm loyal. It was a good team. They
absolutely loyal. I will not change my allegiance to the Steelers or Penn State. But when they deserve to be booed, they deserve to be booed. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be loyal to them. It doesn't mean you're taking off the black and gold.
Exactly.
It just means they stink, and you're letting them know they stink.
You think they don't know they stink?
I pay my money. If I want to cheer, I'll cheer. If I want to boo, I'll boo.
Exactly. And they're making that much money, and then they cry about how bad the fans were doing.
That's it. You see?
It's unbelievable. I was sitting here watching the game.
Why aren't you in school today, Jerry?
Because
I was going to ask too.
What?
It's conference day.
It's what?
Conference day.
Oh. So your parents going in for the big conference?
Oh, yeah.
They're going to be happy or sad?
Waiting for the return.
Yeah. So you figure, I'll call Honseberger. I'll feel a little better that way. All right, Jerry. All
right.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, we're taking a break. We're going to go away, and when we come back, more of your calls, and we're going to ask Lynn how she likes what we've done to the set. We have a few changes. They painted it pink. I have no idea. Stick with us. Honseberger Live on PCNC, Pittsburgh Cable News Channel. Yes. You like what we've done to the place? Hi, Todd. Fred Honseberger, Honseberger Live on PCNC, and my guest is Lynn Cullen, who used to occupy this spot. In fact, just on Friday, it was Cullen on cable, and over the weekend, it turned into Honseberger Live.
It's called usurpation. It's called, yes.
It's called throwing a couple new coats of paint on the set, and what do you think?
Well, it's
kind of looks the same, doesn't it?
It looks like they sort of they rearranged a little bit. You know, there was one thing here, though, that I liked.
What was that?
And I don't see it.
There's the Honseberger mug back there. I'll give you that.
I don't want the Honseberger.
The neon
there was a little Darla plate, a little girl. She used to. It was right there. She
Darla?
A little plate.
From
a little blue
Rascals?
plate, and she and she sat right behind me. And I think when they took the shot, they would always see her. It was probably too femmy for you.
Oh, here we go. This.
Oh, for God! Get those donuts. Donuts.
There.
Oh, there.
There you go. Darla. The Darla plate is there.
Can I have it?
Oh, yeah. Take it with you. It's all yours. Oh well.
Fred.
There, we'll just, here. There. It's just your darling. It's good as new. It's all yours. Take it up to the radio station and...
Were you going to eat all those during the show?
I don't know. No.
Is that part of the budget?
Part of the deal.
Did you?
They don't pay me. They just give me donuts. I get new chairs. New chairs are coming too. They have new chairs, and they painted the place.
What do you mean?
And,
he gets new chairs? He gets donuts?
Oh, the neon sign. Did they have
He
Lynn
gets
back
a
there?
neon
You did have a
sign?
Lynn thing, didn't you?
No.
Oh. Well. I don't know. Be careful of that plate, because it's Darla. All right, so you're feeling all right. You don't like the Boo Birds. Did you see Gene Clark? Did you talk to Gene Clark?
No, why would I talk to Gene Clark?
Thank you very much. That's good. We're just...
What's the problem? You see you're making a mess and they don't like it?
There, I know. They came over. They're going to bring the vacuum cleaner in.
Like dandruff or something.
They did. They came in with the vacuum cleaner before I came on. Gene Clark with the National Organization for Some Women says we don't have enough women in
well, I think that's true. We don't have enough women I agree. Women need to... yeah.
Because I think the president of the National Organization for Some Women said that if women run, they usually win. Because, they don't represent women. They don't represent most women. The National Organization for Women don't represent
you're probably trying to... He's probably trying to provoke me here and start a fight. Here's the problem.
What?
I agree it's the National Organization for Some Women.
This is unbelievable.
I do. They bother me a lot. They get on my nerves.
Why? How come we never got married? For crying out loud.
No, I really... I can never join groups because there's always something I don't agree with. And the National Organization for Women have taken a lot of stands, for some women, have taken some stands in the past that have annoyed me mightily. I don't belong to
What about the soccer kid? The soccer kid with the walker?
I think it's ridiculous.
He was allowed to play.
I know he won.
They told him
he won
play.
in
He
court.
could play the last game.
Yeah.
He said he had to pat it more. They went in there, and it was a scoreless tie.
What nonsense. It really is nonsense. Okay, so what do we disagree on?
We're not disagreeing on anything today. Jesse Jackson, Decatur, Illinois.
I know you've been on that a lot. I haven't. I never saw the tape. I haven't dealt. I didn't see it, and I haven't dealt with it. But so I've only read it in the newspaper. Apparently, if you see the tape.
Also, a lot of people haven't been on the radio show. I am on the radio in the afternoons, 3 to 6 on KDKA.
And I'm on the radio.
Yes, she is. Before me.
From noon to 3 on WPTT. That's 1360.
Didn't you used to be opposite? Didn't we used to be opposite each other? Did you ever do 3 to 6? No, Doug.
No, I never did 3 to 6. What? Take you on, Fred?
No, Ann did.
Do I look like a fool?
No,
Ann did. Yeah,
and Doug, in fact, Doug's on now.
No, I'm not sure about the Jesse thing. Could he be so wrong about where he's staking?
Yeah, I think so. These kids, they were beaten up on this once. You've seen the videotape.
So what's his problem? His problem with it is he thinks a 2-year suspension
Well, it's not a 2-year suspension.
What is it?
It's not even a 1-year suspension. They're putting him in an alternative school where they can graduate. Well, he doesn't want that now. He wants them back into school. We'll have an outside panel determine if their grades are any good and see if they can come back to school early, getting preferential treatment.
Well, I saw a quote in the paper today that did make me wonder a bit when he said something about how many are ready to go to jail, we're going to do civil disobedience. Martin Luther King could do it and I'm thinking what Martin Luther King did civil disobedience for
was a lot different than
two what is this, a few kids who were beat.
Thank you for coming on my show.
You're telling me to get lost.
Wonderful.
I know.
It's wonderful to have you.
Got someone in your ear saying, get rid of her enough already. Maybe.
All right. Thank you. Stick with us, folks. We'll be back to talk to the detectives from Law and Order.
Cool.
On Honseberger Live. PCNC.
I'm taking my plate.
Watch them Wednesday nights at 10 o'clock on NBC. They are Detective Lenny Briscoe and Detective Edward Jordan from NBC's Law and Order, which is a hit TV show. Over the weekend, I was talking to a lot of folks. They said, I love that show. I love that show. Please welcome to the program Jerry Orbach, who plays Lenny Briscoe, and Jesse Martin, who plays Detective Edward Jordan. Gentlemen, welcome to PCNC. Welcome to Pittsburgh.
Thank you.
Let me ask you.
Fred, I have to correct you.
What's that?
My character's name is Edward Green.
Edward Green?
Yeah, you may have an old
I have a thing here. It says it's from NBC. It says Edward Jordan.
You see, probably an old one.
And yet we still love NBC, even though they do things like that.
I love NBC too. All right, I'm sorry. Jesse, thank you. What makes this such a huge show? For those who don't watch it, usually you come out and the beginning the detectives are tracking down some kind of big crime story, and then the second half, it's kind of like a Perry Mason thing. The second half you're in the courtroom.
True.
That's right. I think, Fred, that what you just said is what makes it, is the completeness of each episode. That you see the results of a crime, you see us go after the people, we get somebody, they go to trial, and it's finished. The whole thing is one complete package each week. And I think that's the big factor in it.
And you're keeping it fresh by continuing to add folks like Jesse. And Jesse, I'm going to tell you, I remember you from Ally McBeal, because I watch Ally McBeal. What kind of transition did you have? I know you're an actor, and actors can do acting. We can do it. Yeah. But what kind of did you like Ally?
I loved it.
Ally?
It wasn't that I hated leaving Ally, because I was going somewhere great. I knew, first of all, I was going home. I live in New York City.
Yeah.
But second, I was going to a great show that I've always wanted to be on, even in a guest spot capacity. And here I am with a regular role. I was beside myself. I couldn't wait to get to New York.
All right, here we go. This week, detectives Briscoe and Green are frustrated with their fruitless investigation of an elderly lady's public murder, but tensions mount between the two partners when Briscoe flares at being second-guessed by fellow cops after he claims to hear a prime suspect confess. In addition, while the veteran detective bristles at veiled suggestions that he's too old to do the job, he and Green, they got your name right on this one, he and Green must put aside their differences to search for the small handgun that could make their case against the taunting suspect. Meanwhile...
Boy, we don't have to add anything.
Silent Briscoe can't help... Well, I need to know this. The silent Briscoe can't help to notice that his partner has picked up a dangerous habit in his own personal time. What are we talking about here? Or do we have to watch to find out?
You have to watch the film.
I think you have to watch.
If NBC didn't tell you, that means you ain't supposed to know.
He's got a slightly dangerous habit, and he's a slightly dangerous person, too.
Is it okay having so many people on the cast and adding new people? I mean, that apparently brings to the vitality of the show, but it also sometimes you don't know if you're going to be there one week or the next. Is that okay?
Come on, like life. It's like life. You know, new people come in and go out. People get promoted, raised. You know, they have babies, they die. It keeps it fresh.
Well, I just feel like coming from the theater, you know, those shows end, you know, and, you know, you cry about it that day and then it's over, you know, so you just kind of keep that in your head. I mean, we'd all like to be there forever, but...
Well, Jesse, you're coming on the show. The show's almost 10 years old, and it's won an Emmy. And, I mean, so you have to ask yourself this question, how long is it going to go on? But, I mean, you're a ratings winner every time, every Wednesday night.
Yeah.
So,
isn't that amazing?
All right. How can you keep coming up with new crimes?
Well,
how do we keep coming up with new stories?
Thank God we don't have to come up with the new stories.
Exactly.
Writers do. But also, the people come up with the new stories. You read them in the paper every day. They find some new way to do some horrible thing, and we just report on it.
All right, so it's a lot of fun. It's NBC, Wednesday nights, 10 o'clock. More than a minute. We have more than a minute to go.
Good.
So I love
Why don't we all sing a little song?
Wednesday nights, 10 o'clock on NBC. It's Law & Order. When you're out there doing the detective work, does that take away from what you do in the courtroom? I mean, do you ever have to do anything in the courtroom? You guys show up and testify?
Yeah, once in a while. That's sort of a pain in the neck for us when we have to do courtroom scenes, but it takes us.
I guess we have to tune in this Wednesday night to find out what that despicable habit is that you've picked up, and the tension between gentlemen. Thanks.
It's a pretty exciting episode. Thank you.
Thank you. Law & Order. Jesse Martin, Jerry Orbach, both of them on Law & Order, and that's why we love them so much. Wednesday nights at 10 o'clock on NBC. That would be Channel 11 here in Pittsburgh. This is PCNC. I'm Fred Honseberger. Honseberger Live. It's the first show. Can't you tell? Stick with us. We'll be back. Welcome back to Honseberger Live on PCNC. Of course, you can hear me this afternoon on KDKA Radio, AM 1020. 3 to 6 p.m. I'll be on. There are a lot of things we didn't get to today on this show. We wanted to talk about the Jesse Jackson thing that I talked a little bit about with Lynn Cullen, so we'll bringing that up again this afternoon on the radio show. Also the fact that the Steelers are blaming us for their loss. Isn't that wonderful? The Fifth and Forbes people are, they've hired a lawyer. Some of the folks, the Wigorama and Beeper store, have hired a lawyer so they can get as much money. As a matter of fact, we have a poll on the net that we would like you to take. And here's the poll question. The 24-hour poll, should the proposed downtown revitalization proceed as planned? Because as we work on this week, we move on. We're going to get somebody on to talk about that. Go to realpittsburgh.com to cast your vote. We'll show you the results tomorrow on this show. And there we go. Now, we also, some of you may have not had a chance to get on the program because the lines are still loaded up, and I know people want to talk to Lynn and people want to talk about the Steeler thing. If you didn't get a chance to get on, perhaps you're a little too timid to come up and talk against me. Call the Hans Man 24-hour comment line, 237-1200, the area code 412-237-1200, the Hans After Hours Club. Leave your comments, and your comments could show up right here on the television program. Thank you very much for being with us today. Thanks for Lynn Cullen. Thanks for the guys from the TV show for Law & Order being with us. Thanks to Rich Little. Thank you. I'll see you this afternoon on the radio. Remember, 3 to 6 KDKA. Tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. We'll do it all over again. Thank you, folks. Have a great day.